Good morning, folks, / early afternoon, wherever you are. Joined by Blaine. As always, we're breaking down week 3 of the NFL slate. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Excited to get into the slate. There's actually, I think building lineups this week for me is more cut and dry than it was last week. There is uncertainty with injuries, late news with that, and the value that brings, but it also solidifies ownership into spots that are either good or bad, and I think it's pretty easy to pivot off of those if you need to. So I'm kind of excited to break this down and get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Alrighty, we'll start with the first game on the slate. Also, the highest total on the slate here is going to be the Cowboys at the Bears. Two teams that have been just absolutely torched in their secondary past few weeks, and sets up to be a real shootout. So obviously, this is going to be where a lot of people are starting their builds. Both QBs reasonably priced. Dak has obviously looked better this year than he has in years past. And there's also a lot of value here as well with some of the tight ends, Colson Loveland and some rookies on the Bears side. I don't know if you buy into the Ben Johnson coach speak, but he's been wanting to, get these guys more involved, and this seems like a really good week to do so.
Well, he's got to after how good Taylor Warren has looked. They took Loveland over him as a surprise, so he has to force feed him a little bit to make him look better than how it's been so far.
So I mean, the Bears' run game has really not been great. Not really a fault of their O-line. It's more of DeAndre Swift not being a really good running back. And the way this game goes, game script-wise, is probably going to lead to the air. Do you have a favorite side, Dallas or Chicago, when it comes to stacking this game or targets?
I'd probably go Dallas just because it's more proven. I'd probably go Dallas, especially because you get the ownership discount a little bit on Dak versus Caleb. He doesn't have quite the same rushing upside, but I don't know. I just kind of would side with the more proven quarterback.
Yeah, I like both sides here as well. Probably easier to stack the Dallas side, I would say. Although, like on the Bears side, I do like taking some shots on a guy like Colson Loveland, who's basically garnering no ownership. Kmet's up there with him, but I think if I'm going for a tight end there, I'm probably going towards Loveland. DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, good matchups in the slot against Dallas, who have been really weak against the slot receivers. So I like that spot there. And then, on the Dallas side, it's CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. And then, if you want to take a shot on the tight end, I think that's probably fine too.
Yeah, I mean, both receivers for the Bears, the two big ones, look pretty enticing. Just depends on the lineup construction. Odunze is going to be way more popular, I think, after the last week. So I don't want to stack him up with other popular plays, but DJ Moore looks like a nice pivot off of him as well.
Yeah,
we've seen DJ Moore's upside. It's like,
oh yeah,
he can do the same thing Rome did last week.
Carolina Panthers legend DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you there. Typically, when you see two receivers around the same price on the same team in the same spot with similar median projections, but one's garnering 12 ownership and one's garnering 21 or 22, then that always wants your ears to perk up, especially when that sort of ownership isn't really numbers based. It's more of a stat box chaser deal. So definitely a good spot there to look at if you want to get different in your lineups. You can still play the chalky game, the high total game, but finding a different way to build your lineup or include players that may be going overlooked is a good way to get different.
Yeah, I agreed. What do you think about Pickens versus CD? Speaking of the two receivers.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens, he looked good last week, as well as the primetime game they played that I watched more closely. I mean, both are fine, but obviously you get a huge discount on Pickens over CD, both in salary and ownership. And I think this week there's a lot of really good spend up running back spots. So I'd probably be leaning towards the cheaper stack with Pickens. I mean, CD's obviously has a known ceiling and he's the alpha, but he's also being owned and costs for that role. So I think a good way to play this is, either getting away from value on the receiver side and spending up at running back, or going expensive in your quarterback wide receiver stack and playing some of the cheaper running backs. But there's going to be a lot of value on the slate. There's a lot of injuries. So if you want to spend up for CD, I think there's a lot of ways you can do that.
Yeah, quarterback from this game, CD and Odunze feels like that's going to be a really popular build in the small field GPP stuff.
Yeah.
Power sweeper about that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess other like tertiary plays, you've got, Kevontae Turpin, gadget guy. You've got, the rookie Luther Burden on the Bears side, Olamide Zaccheaus. Any interest in those tertiary guys as part of a stack or a game stack?
As part of a game stack, sure, but I don't really know if you need to do it this week, like as a, targeting these guys specifically.
Yeah.
If they end up like in an onslaught build or something, that's fine. But yeah, not like a too much value otherwise.
Right on. Let's move on to the next game we got on the slate here. Cardinals at Niners. Already getting into sort of the injury discussion. Obviously, we've got Mac Jones starting under center for the 49ers. And also, is Juwan Jennings officially out? I believe he is. No Juwan for the Niners, which brings more of the run-heavy script for Christian McCaffrey, more usage for him, but also bumps all the other receivers out there, Ricky Pearsall. What are you seeing from the 49ers in this game?
Oh, man, I think it's going to be a pretty ugly game in general. These Cardinals-Niners games typically, at least anecdotally speaking, have been slogs, especially with Mac Jones. I mean, I wouldn't say he looked okay against New Orleans, but it's New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, McCaffrey's role is so good. I don't really mind getting him. Obviously, he gets used everywhere. His touchdown last week came as he was spread out as a wide receiver, and Pearsall, like all the targets should be going to him. I mean, I guess the cheap Niners receiver I'd be interested in is Kendrick Bourne. If you really felt like you had to go there, he has familiarity with the offense with Shanahan, so he got some snaps last week. That would be like the cheap dart I would play, but it's Pearsall and McCaffrey for me. And on the Cardinal side, obviously it's McBride. Probably just McBride for me, really.
Yeah, Elijah noting McCaffrey's 20% target share. I would expect that to go up even more. Mac Jones is not really an elite downfield threat. He's not going to be throwing those 40-yard bombs. So McCaffrey's already got high usage in the offense, and I think they're going to rely on him even more in this game. Cardinals' pace of play so far, first 3 weeks is like league last or near league last. Like you said, these games typically are pretty sluggish. And outside of McCaffrey on the Niners side, I really don't have much interest in this game. The Cardinals have been splitting time between Trey Benson and James Conner in the backfield, which makes a guy like James Conner, who usually, is pretty good for at least some touchdowns or a good floor, just really limits his ceiling in the matchup. And, for 6,500, I think you can find a lot better ceiling plays on the slate. So I don't really have a lot of interest in the Cardinal side of the ball outside of, like you said, maybe a Trey McBride just as a last guy in. But I mean, all in all, I don't think I'm really going to be targeting this game for a primary stack. But if some of those primary guys get in there like McCaffrey or McBride, I think that's okay.
Yeah, you could talk me into Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of dart in a chalky build like that build we were just talking about with the Bears Cowboys stack. I could see that. The Niners had trouble with Smith and Jigba. They're very different receivers, but they've had trouble with number one receivers so far this year. So he would at least be one dart I'd be looking at for a low ownership play.
Yeah, I like that. Like we said, pretty injuries to watch in this game. So I mean, there's going to be considerations there. I mean, for me, it's really not super interesting. I feel like both of these teams, the Cardinals play slow and their offense hasn't really looked that great this year. And the injuries on the 49ers side just lead me to believe they're going to try to control the game through the ground and really reduce the amount of plays. And I don't think there's going to be like huge explosive plays from either side here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Alrighty. That being said, the total is still pretty healthy. I mean, outside of that Cowboys game that's at a 50 total, a lot of these totals are going to be hovering in this 43 to 45 point range, and the spread is pretty tight. So, I mean, Vegas does expect there to be some scoring in this game and that it should stay pretty close. But that being said, I don't see like massive ceiling performances. It could be a scenario where you get a touchdown from Connor, a touchdown from Trey McBride, a few spread out across the Niners side, and no player really generates that score that you need.
Yeah, I mean, except for McCaffrey's just the one off there, but yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Because I mean, McCaffrey could have the 100 rushing, 100 receiving this week. Anyway, so
it would never surprise me if you put up 30 points.
Yeah,
never be surprising for me.
Yeah.
All righty, let's continue on. Next game we got up is Broncos at the Chargers. This is a really high total game in terms of, I think, fantasy potential. Similar game total and spread as the last one, but I think the individual plays and the ceilings of these guys is much higher here. The only thing that might worry me a little bit is the way these defenses play is that they're really good at limiting explosive plays. So drives are going to be a little bit more methodical and chunky, but that doesn't scare me off anything here. I really like both sides of the ball here. Anecdotally, I took Bo Nix in like almost all my season-long leagues just because he drops to the bottom, but I also think he's in a good spot this year. He obviously has rushing upside on the ground, and we've seen a good performance from Troy Franklin coming out of last week. And I think in general, both of these teams the Chargers at least are very, very pass heavy, one of the highest PROEs in the league up to this week, and I think that can push the Broncos into a more pass heavy script. What are you seeing from this game?
Yeah, the Broncos defense, at least so far, been really disappointing. They had so much hype in the preseason. Yeah, I definitely see much more shootout potential in this game with the same total as the last game and the divisional game as well, just like the last game. But I see way more shootout potential in this. Yeah, I mean, you can talk me into both sides here. Bo Nix has been mostly impressive. I mean, like I don't think he's as good as people hype him up to be, but he's been impressive so far this year. The one player, like as another low-owned dart that I'm interested in is Omarion Hampton. I know he's another one that's kind of been let people down a little bit, but we just saw Jonathan Taylor last week go crazy against Broncos. He would have broken the slate if he had scored a touchdown. And so I really don't mind Omarion Hampton here. Again, if he's as a combo in a other like high-owned stack lineup.
Yeah, I mean the glaring the glaring player that stands out to me here, and I guess the field is here as well. It's Keenan Allen at 4,700.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, veteran receiver. He's got a huge role in the offense. Pretty consistent target volume in the offense, which makes him predictable. Field's definitely there, but this sort of Chargers passing offense, it's McConkey, Allen, and then a little bit of QJ, who has honestly looked a lot better than he has in years past. I almost, I get burned playing QJ so much. It's kind of like I never want to go back to the well, but he seems to be catching balls that are thrown at him. So that's always good. I'm with you on Omarion Hampton. I think, people have this vision in their head of what the Broncos defense is or what it used to be at least. And, you typically never really wanted to play much of anybody up against them, but especially not in the run game. And it doesn't look like the field's going to be super heavy on the Chargers passing stack in terms of ownership. But if you did want to get different, you could play it from the side that the Chargers control the game through the ground through Omarion and then play him as a run back for a Bo Nix stack. So playing sort of the passing game on one side, run game on the other. Do you have, if you were going to stack this game, do you like going to one side's, passing game over the other?
No, I mean, I like double stacks on both sides, really. Troy Franklin last week got a ton of usage against Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, I like double stacks on both sides look good. You can do the Herbert, Hampton, McConkey if you wanted to. Yeah, pretty much. I like attacking this game a lot.
Yeah, I do too. The ownership's in the right spot for me. There's a lot of single digits across the board, and like we both said, I think this game has a lot of potential for a shootout. So I like getting here a lot in tournaments.
Yeah, this just feels like a way higher variance game than the previous one. I could see this being kind of like that Chargers Raiders game, maybe closer, but a low scoring slog like that. I could also see this being like the Colts Broncos game last week, where it's a real shootout.
Yeah, definitely a wider range of outcomes, which is what we like to see when we're going for that number one spot.
Yep.
Alrighty, moving on to the next game. Here we got Rams at Eagles. Another really good spot here that I like. Is it finally A.J. Brown week? We'll never know. But that being said, we've got two really concentrated offenses. On the Rams side, you've got Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams pretty much dominating the receiving share. There's really nobody else you can play with confidence there. So clear stacking targets for the Rams. And then you flip it over to the Eagles side, and you also have highly concentrated volume between Jalen Hurts on the ground inside the 5 and also Saquon Barkley on the ground, Devontae and AJ on the receiving side. What are you seeing from this game?
I think both teams will be able to move the ball. I'm expecting this to be much higher scoring than Eagles Chiefs last week. The Rams have shown that they have the ability to create explosive plays. I haven't been impressed by Philly secondary, and I trust McVay to get Puka especially open. So yeah, just like I always hate doing Stafford stacks because there's like no rushing upside, but I do like attacking both sides of this game.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I think the passing game in the Rams side is going to be a lot more popular than the run game just due to the Eagles' run defense so far. It's a tougher matchup on the ground for them. So I think, as far as ownership goes here, we see a lot of ownership coming into Puka, Saquon, and Devontae, which makes a ton of sense to me. not a lot of love for the run game on the Rams side, which also makes sense to me. I think the field's sort of where, in agreement there that this game, if you're going to be playing it, there's a lot of concentration and upside in the receiving game.
Yeah, the Eagles passing game is pretty interesting to me here. Just the ownership, especially on Hurts. I mean, just a single stack with him and Devontae or AJ Brown. That looks pretty appealing to me in this spot. And running it back with Puka makes. I think there's enough value out there to be able to build those kinds of lineups, and I think that's pretty attractive to me this week.
Yeah, I like that too. Another game where I'm kind of surprised that ownership isn't really flowing as much here, but we'll get into some spots where there's a lot of value and there seems to be ownership soaking up there. Then also a lot of people just concentrated on that Cowboys game with the high total, but we're playing for tournaments here, and these games are just as likely to get up there in point scoring as that one. With offensive weapons and big, highly concentrated offenses, I think there's something to be said about getting different in these games.
Yep.
All righty, let's go on to Texans at the Jags. I mean, yeah, it's still a pretty healthy total and spread here, but compared to some of the games we've already talked about, I don't have a ton of interest here. Obviously, there's going to be Christian Kirk back for the Texans, which sort of at least gives you hope for their offense in terms of moving the ball down the field, but it also takes away usage from some of the other guys we've been playing. I was really heavy on the Cyclones guys. I think they did all right, but that's going to take usage away from them. And Nico Collins, hopefully that allows him to have a bit more freedom on the field, giving the defense another target to worry about. What do you see from this game in terms of fantasy scoring potential?
Yeah, for me, this pretty much is just Nico or pass. Have a lot of respect for the Texans defense, and especially their secondary. And I see people are trying to get back to Brian Thomas Jr. after last week. To me, I think this is going to be a pretty ugly, low-scoring game. And Nico Collins obviously has the upside, just like Jamar Chase last week. So he'd be the one guy I'm interested in.
Yeah, I was really interested in playing, at least some pieces from this game, particularly like the running game on the Jag side. But rookie Bishal Tootin sort of threw a wrench into that plan, taking away a good amount of snaps from ETN. So I really liked ETN, coming into the week and hoping that he would get some usage. And maybe they do go back to that. I think it's a good matchup for them on the ground. However, I don't really want to play ETN if it's going to be another situation where him and Tootin are splitting snaps.
Yeah, it's the same thing as last year with
Bigsby.
Tank. Yeah.
Really annoying. I mean, Houston too. There's just been all sorts of line issues for him. I don't think I've seen Stroud have a clean pocket, and any snap I've watched him play, he really doesn't have a lot of opportunity. And even against like a Jags defense, which isn't like super crazy, but they're mid pack. I don't think I really see a lot of hope there for the Texans side of the ball. And then really, I don't really feel comfortable going to the running game either. There's a lot of concerns there for their run game. I just don't see myself going there.
Yeah. In agreement with you there.
Yeah, a lot of low ownership in this game, and I think it's rather deserved. High single digits for a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. and Nico Collins, guys who obviously have upside in a game, and there will be touchdowns scored in this game. So I think it's fine going to some one-offs here, but this isn't really a game I'm prioritizing getting into my lineups.
Yeah, I mean defenses are pretty random, but I guess Houston would interest me. They're 0-2. They have to win this game, divisional game. And like Trevor Lawrence is more than willing to give up interceptions and big plays for the defense. So no ownership on the Texans. They're pretty cheap. I'm interested there. Otherwise, yeah, pretty hard fade for me aside from Nico and the Texans defense.
Yeah, good prices on the defense. I do like that shot for defenses in this game. Not that we really target defenses too much, but if these are teams I'd be looking for in my lineups to see like, oh yeah, good lineup and the defense checks the box. So I like that. Let's take a look at Jets at Bucks here. Pretty high spread in this game. That being said, I mean, we got Tyrod Taylor under center for the Jets. I think that's probably going to lead them to more of a run game, of a slow game, which doesn't really match up well against the Bucks defense here. So I would expect the Bucks to get up pretty quick in this game and control from ahead. What do you see from like a game script point of view here?
Well, the Bucks, I think, are having a set. I can't find the words. dress up the local high school team for their offensive line this week because everybody on the offensive line is hurt, and so I'm just in general worried about their ability to move the ball here and Baker's ability to avoid pressure. I mean, obviously he's been really good this year and last year, so I just think this is another pretty ugly game. Kind of another fade for me. Bucky Irving, I guess, would be maybe one. Mike Evans can always get there, but in general, this is probably a fade.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs have looked, pretty good to start the season, and I think they're starting to concentrate the offense a little bit with the emergence of Igbuka. I think that allows them to concentrate targets more than they have in years past, where you can, fit $4 or $5 on the lineup and feel good about it. There's a lot of usage being sucked up by him that I think makes, some of the wide receiver threes and tight ends not as appealing. I like the Bucky Irving shout. I think in general they're going to rely on him a lot. But I am, like you said, worried about the line there for the Bucs, and also the Jets defense has been all right. Really good in seasons past. They haven't really been as good this year, but I still think they're a pretty okay unit. And Baker's prone to mistakes. I think there's some worries there. So
yeah, Jets another like super cheap defense you could try to target and hope you get some sacks with that offensive line. Is Igbuka confirmed in? He's had like a weird practice stuff this week.
I'm not sure. I think he is, at least for now, confirmed, but definitely something to watch on the injury report. If he misses, then that opens up some really weird guys down there at the bottom. But to me, if he misses, I think it's just more reason to get away from this game. It's going to lead the Bucs offense to be a little less productive and have a harder time moving the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, it would open up like super cheap Sterling Shepard or something. But yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, not a ton of love for me from this game. Let's take a look at Raiders at Commanders. Another game where we have to consider some injury stuff. We've got Marcus Mariota starting for the almost said the Redskins, so Washington Commanders. Obviously a lot of people are going to be going there this week just because he's the stone min as a quarterback with rushing upside on an offense that is okay and going up against a defense that has given up, a fair amount of points so far this season. Is this an area you would want to target?
Yeah, I was getting a ton of Mariota in the Sims I was running earlier. I don't mind it at all, really. This Raiders defense hasn't shown the ability to stop anyone. My main concern would just be that the Raiders let this game get out of reach and, they kind of wave white flag and Washington doesn't really throw the ball very much in the second half. There's only 3.5 point spread, so it's unlikely, but it is a little bit of a concern for me. But otherwise, yeah, I do like Mariota.
Yeah, I agree with you because the Commanders, three-headed backfield of Bill, as they call him, you really can't go there as far as stacking. You've got like Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez sharing snaps with him, so it makes him less appealing outside of, maybe scoring a few touchdowns and getting variance to go his way that way. But as far as a usage back, it's really hard to target him. So if you're going Mariota, I almost like stacking him with sort of these short A-dot guys like Zach Ertz and Debo over a guy like McLaurin. Ownership, we got 4% on McLaurin. And then let me see, Debo's at 6%. So you don't really get an ownership discount there, but I do like targeting, Debo and Ertz over McLaurin if you're going for a stack here in this game.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It's just, it feels like I could see a lot of Mariota one-offs at the 4K price tag. Let's play whoever you want, basically.
Yeah, I think if you do want to get different in this game, like we both said, if this game gets away from the Raiders and they mail it in, I don't think it's worth stacking. So if you do play this game, I would almost want to stack the Raiders or stack the Commander side and bring back Ashton Genty or Brock Bowers or somebody from the Raiders side who you expect to score a lot just to keep the game close and keep the Commanders needing to press the issue.
Yeah, Jacoby would be the other one of those three. Bowers, to me, didn't look right with his knee brace, his knee sprain or whatever he has. That's concerning, obviously, but because he looked great week one before that happened.
Yeah, definitely. So, definitely a much riskier environment in terms of getting to a GPP winning score, but that being said, you will be rewarded with some ownership discounts if it does go that way. Take a look at Steelers at Patriots. Meeting of the minds here between Rodgers and Drake May. The total is healthy in this one, but the offenses to me are just so anemic. And outside of like maybe one or two targets, I really don't see like a specific guy in this game that I can really confidently project for a lot of usage.
Steelers 31st in EPA per play first 2 weeks on defense. So they're giving up. They're one of the worst. I'm pretty interested in Patriots stacks. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm interested in the Drake May, Diggs, or Booty. One of those combos. I mean, it's super low owned, obviously, but you can play pretty much whoever else you want in that combination. And we've seen the Steelers defense give up points to Justin Fields week 1 and the Seahawks last week. So I'm pretty interested.
They are riddled with injuries. They've got injuries on the line in the middle with the linebackers and cornerbacks. So they do have a lot of guys in the defense right now that are not really well practiced and are part of the main unit. So I can see that as well. I never really feel comfortable about shoving all in on a guy like Drake May and the Patriots. But if the matchup is good and the ownership is right, which it is, not a lot of ownership coming in at all on any of these guys. It could make for a really high leverage spot.
Yeah. The other thing about May too is right now he's like Diet Herbert. He's got the rushing upside. So yeah, I will have. I mean, probably trying to think what size contest it would be big enough. I might want to run one in this power sweep with Drake May.
I like that. Obviously, you're going to be stacking the receiving game here. I would imagine both sides of the ball here don't really have a clear lead back. Timeshare on both sides here. Patriots side, you've got Trevion, Gibson, and Ramondre splitting work, and Steelers, you got Warren and Kenneth Gainwell splitting work. Any love there or no?
Not really. Maybe Jalen Warren. It's the Henderson-Stevenson split's been weird. Stevenson had a big week last week. I don't know what to do there. I'd rather just play the receivers because it's pretty clear that Diggs and Booty are the two that Malek's going to, at least so far.
Yep. I like that. Drake May for all the marbles this week in the power sweep. Moving on to Falcons at Panthers. Really good matchup here on the ground for the Falcons, although the game environment may be not as great for fantasy scoring. I do like Bijan a lot here, as does the field. Panthers defense has been really anemic. They're not going to be leading this game, and if the Falcons want to control the ball here, I think they can, and it's going to be done through the ground with a guy like Bijan. What do you see from this game?
Yeah, I mean, Bijan obviously looks like a great play again. The only real downside to him, I guess, is just that Algier split sometimes is funny, and he doesn't have quite the same passing game involvement that like McCaffrey does for about the same price. But otherwise, yeah, I like Bijan, obviously, like no problem getting him into your lineups this week.
Yeah, you always have to worry about the Tyler Algier 3 carries at the 3-yard line for 3 touchdown line. In the passing game, Kyle Pitts has been a little bit more involved this year, and he's in a position that the Panthers give up a ton of fantasy points to so far. So I do kind of like going there if you want to play a different route here. Bijan coming in over 20% ownership. You can sort of play the other side there where you stack Michael Penix, Drake London, and then maybe Darnell Mooney or Kyle Pitts or a tertiary guy like Tyler Algier and hope for more passing work or touchdown variance, and say that the fantasy scoring in this game is going to be going through the air and not the ground. And that could be a way you get different here in this game.
Yeah, I don't mind that as a pivot. The Panthers tight end thing I'd be careful with just because they played Trey McBride one of their 2 weeks, and the other week they got blown out.
Yeah, that's fair. Other side of the ball, obviously, Bryce Young could probably throw the ball 40 times in this matchup, and hasn't been a super great quarterback to start the year. So I kind of like the Falcons DST here as well as a play. They are a little bit more expensive at 3,200, but they're in a really good spot here to score fantasy points.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed. Bryce Young had all that hype again. It's let everybody down so far.
Yeah. Any love for a guy like Tyro McMillan as a run back for stacks on the side? I mean, he's kind of been the only guy on the Panthers worth even throwing to or rostering in your lineup.
Yeah, he's been awesome so far. He always just looked like an NFL player, even when he was at Arizona. Just huge receiver. He kind of like Mike Evans is the guy that he reminds me of. So definitely don't mind getting to him.
Elijah likes London and Pitts against the cover 3 scheme Panthers are running.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Pitts at no ownership is always interesting to me just because the talent is so it's just too enticing.
Yeah, I'll definitely be playing.
Has London had a good game so far this year? It feels like he's had two kind of duds. Did he have
No, but
last week? Last week was that ugly game
yeah.
against Minnesota.
Yeah, like we said, I'll be playing a lot of Bijan in lineups, but not as part of this game stack. I will have a few lineups this week that specifically pivot off of Bijan in this game and build around a passing script narrative with Penix and a few Atlanta receivers coming back with McMillan.
Yeah, I like that.
Alrighty. Check out Colts at Titans. Speaking of abysmal QB play, we've got Cam Ward under center for the Titans going up against Daniel Jones, who looks like a brand new man on this Colts offense that has been incredibly productive so far this season. And honestly, we got some ownership coming in this game, and I can see why. He's just been really solid this week, and the offense is pretty heavily concentrated both in the run game and in the receiving game. What do you like from this game?
I mean, Jonathan Taylor obviously looks good. I like Amanor, the receiver from Stanford. He has shown that Cam Ward likes to target him. He's got quite a few targets so far this year, so I don't mind him as like a super cheap punt. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This game is tough for me. I don't really have that great of a feel for either of these teams. Like the Colts obviously have been impressive. I thought the Titans were going to be slightly better than they've been, but then again, they hung in there against Denver, so I don't know. I don't really have a great feel for this game at all.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think, for me, Jonathan Taylor's a really good play, and I think ownership-wise, he's not as highly owned as a guy like Bijan, and I think his workload is better and more solidified than Bijan. He doesn't have a guy at the goal line like Tyler Algier to take stuff away from him, but he does have Daniel Jones. In the receiving game, I really like Michael Pittman this week. I think he's kind of emerged and solidified his role in the offense and coming in at under 5% owned. If you want to stack a Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, and Tyler Warren, who obviously has been really great at the tight end position so far, I think that's a good way to do it. And you can come back with a few options on the other side. Like you said, Ridley, the number one, but Ayamenor has been good as well. So you can even go to a guy like Chig.
Yep. I mean, the other advantage of playing these guys, not that they're great plays or anything, but the other advantage is the Colts defense is pretty popular this week against a rookie quarterback. And so just getting some kind of leverage there.
Yeah, just saying that he won't be as bad as people expect him to be. We've got 12% ownership on the Colts defense that you're getting to a spot there where you can basically jump the rake on the field if you just don't play into that narrative.
Right.
Anything else to look at from this game?
No, I mean, I guess Tyler Warren's been pretty good so far. I don't mind him as tight end. He's only 4,400 still. I can't imagine that's going to stay that price tag much longer. Feels like by the end of the year he'll be around the Bowers Kittle tag, so he's interesting to me while he's still this cheap. But he's also getting ownership. So
agreed. Moving on to Cincinnati Bengals at the Vikings. Aaron Jones will miss for the Vikings, which brings cheap Jordan Mason into the conversation against a Bengals defense who has been hemorrhaging yards. And then obviously on the Bengals side, we are without Jake Burrow. We are without Joe Burrow while Jake Browning suits up. And then, Carson Wentz playing for the Vikings. We got two injuries in this game. A lot of people going to this game, both for cheap value as well as, just upside in general to two teams that can put big scores up on the board. Are you worried at all about like the Jake Browning and Carson Wentz starting here?
I mean, sure. But both of them obviously have plenty of experience playing. So not that, it's kind of the same thing as Mariota. They should both be fine. I think the Viking side is really interesting. Justin Jefferson's been really frustrated so far this year. And now maybe it's like a fresh start kind of without McCarthy against this awful Bengals defense. It's an interesting pivot away from Mason. He's going to soak up all the ownership here. He's way cheaper, obviously, but I am very interested in Justin Jefferson this week.
Yeah, I really like the Vikings side of the ball, especially their defense. Obviously Brian Flores running a blitz heavy defense, and the Bengals line not being super great. I think that that could lead to some issues for Jake Browning. And if I'm playing one side of the ball here, I think it is going to be the Vikings. And like we saw, not to the same extreme, but like we saw with Bijan garnering 20 plus ownership in that game on the ground, we've got Jordan Mason here with 30% ownership. So simply pivoting off the running game for the Vikings into the passing game and stacking Carson Wentz, Justin Jefferson, and then maybe a guy like Thielen, Naylor, or Hawkinson, and saying that the Vikings do have success in this game, but it comes through the air and not on the ground is a way you can get different while still playing a good game environment.
Yeah, I don't mind the Cincy side of the ball too much. I mean, at least the Chase Brown you could talk me into, and even Chase Brown a little bit. I mean, Bijan had that huge game last week. Not really comparing Chase Brown to Bijan, but
yeah,
it is worth noting. I don't mind really both sides of the ball here. I think Chase has been incredible with Burrow and with Browning. I'm not really worried about him. Maybe more on the T. Higgins side I'm worried, but I think any one of the Chase Browning I'm okay with.
Yeah, I still sort of lean towards this game does have potential to be high scoring, but I also see a lot of pass to failure here just with the two new QBs coming in. New is relative, but them coming in, and then I think the Vikings defense is still hard for the Bengals to get over. So I can see a scenario here where it just really isn't a high scoring game at all, and the Vikings get up and just sort of sit on the ball.
Yeah, I would say like this is definitely a yeah, that's true. I would say this is definitely a high variance game like that Broncos Chargers game. Not quite the same level of quarterback play, but
right.
Same kind of like I could see this being 9-6 like that Falcons game, and I could see this being 31-28.
Yeah, agree with Elijah here that Hawkinson has not looked good to start the season,
Yeah.
and I don't think that situation is really going to improve with Carson Wentz. Maybe it will with if they want to target short intermediary throws, but he hasn't really looked good blocking or catching the ball, so I don't really think it's a quarterback issue on that front.
Yeah, I mean, who has though? I guess Jefferson had that big second half, but I guess the Bears. Otherwise, he hasn't been done anything either.
True. Packers at Browns here. We've got two of the league's best run defenses to start the season so far, with two teams that sort of like to run the ball, although the Browns have been pretty pass heavy due to game scripts, and Joe Flacco does love slinging the ball, does love throwing to Njoku. Although, I mean, this game to me really just screams like low play volume, rushing a lot. Do you see any sort of difference there in terms of like GBP winning scores?
No, not really. Two really good defenses. Packers might be the best defense actually right now.
They look good, man. Go Pack, go.
Yeah.
Jordan Love obviously has one of the highest average depth of targets so far this week or so far this season, throwing the ball a lot downfield. I just don't see that sort of game script or that sort of play coming out of the Packers this week. I'm not as interested. Then obviously you got the offense is so split up that even when they do have high passing volume weeks, it's hard to tell who it's going to go to, and you really have to get lucky with who you pick to stack them with.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't really. I mean, obviously they could. I mean, Lamar Jackson had 4 passing touchdowns last week, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's always room for upside with a really good quarterback. But yeah, this is just a tough game for me to go to.
Yeah, I mean, we are missing Jaden Reed on the Packers side, which can concentrate targets. I think it sort of leads to Tucker Kraft being the primary beneficiary of that. He's been a really reliable target, but he's also a bit questionable. Is he suiting up? I think he injured his knee in practice or something. Yeah. So
I don't think I think it's Beaver legend Luke Musgrave this week.
Yeah, so I mean, missing two offensive powerhouses of that for Jordan Love, I think is sort of getting me off of this game. And then I'd love to play a guy like Josh Jacobs, who has a really great role, but he's garnering ownership. He's not exactly cheap, and he's going up against a Browns defense that has been pretty good. So I don't really have a ton of love to getting anything from this game, no pun intended.
Nice. Let's wait on to the next game.
Yeah, let's do it. Saints at the
yeah, really ending it with a bang here.
Yeah, we can turn it off now,
right?
So I mean, the Saints have been pretty high tempo, but that's been out of necessity so far this season. While on the other side, the Seahawks are just running the ball, and they don't pass at all. And then obviously we have Kenneth Walker starting this week for the Seahawks. He's garnering ownership. He's going to be cheap. In a good matchup, but are you going to play into Kenneth Walker at 33% ownership in a game that it doesn't really look that great on paper?
Depends on the build. I mean, he should get all the usage he wants here because Charbonnet's out. But it also, like, I could definitely see the Kenneth Walker 50% own first play pulls up with his hammy and he's out. Like, how many times have we seen that Kenneth Walker before? So that's obviously the concern. But I depends on the build I have. Not like, for example, in a Cowboys Bears stack, I probably won't play him. But maybe in that Drake May lineup or something else talking about.
Yeah, it is really interesting to see the ownership on Kenneth Walker and JSN in this game, and then no ownership coming back on the other side outside of a little bit of love for Kamara. I almost feel like if you're playing the Kenneth Walker and JSN, you almost have to believe that the Saints are going to keep this game competitive, which makes me interested in actually building a stack from the Saints side, and going like a Spencer Rattler, Alvin Kamara, and then either a guy like Olave Shaheed or Johnson, and then coming back on the other side with JSN or Kenneth Walker as part of a game stack.
Recommending a Spencer Rattler stack.
if you're in the camp of wanting to play Kenneth Walker or JSN, I think they're okay as one-offs. But if you really want a ceiling out of either of those guys, the game is going to have to stay competitive. And if it does stay competitive, why not play the stack that is single-digit ownership over playing Sam Darnold with those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would do it maybe with Juwan Johnson. I don't trust. Olave went to the medical tent. I was watching the game because I'm an Niners fan last week. Olave went to the medical tent like 5 different times during that game.
Interesting.
No faith in his ability to be healthy. So yeah, Kamara and Johnson, I guess, would be the two stack. You could do the Rashid Shaheed and hope he gets the big touchdown. Sometimes happens, maybe 2.
Yeah, he's going to get 3 targets a game, and they're all going to be 80 yards down the field, and you just got to hope he brings one in. Yeah, but I do like, honestly, I do like that for tournaments. That might be, obviously if you're playing single entry or 3 entry max, probably don't want to play a Spencer Rattler stack. But if you got a dart in the milli maker, try a Rattler stack.
Yeah, why not?
Heard it here first. That is our last game of the 13-game slate. Let's go position by position really quick and look through some lower owned guys here. At the quarterback position, we've got Caleb Williams, the only guy in double digits, followed by a lot of the cheapies here, Mariota, Wentz. What sort of quarterbacks are you looking to target this week who you think are under-owned relative to their upside?
I mean, let's do – I could go any one of the 3 right there with Herbert, Hurts, and May. I'll go Drake May just because I already shouted out that stack earlier.
Yeah, I like that. For me, I really like targeting a guy from that Chargers-Broncos game. Herbert and Nix, I think, are both really, really good options here at low ownership with a ton of upside.
Yeah.
Running back here
is going to shoot out, but who knows?
Yeah. Running back here, we obviously have value with Kenneth Walker and Jordan Mason. Those guys are above 30s in the ownership, followed by McCaffrey, Bijan, JT, and Javonte. Anybody here at the running back position you think is going wildly overlooked?
Not wildly, no. It looks pretty efficient to me, and there's such good spots at the top, to really the top 5 guys. So I wouldn't say there's anything really overlooked. I'll my sub 10% play. I'll go. I don't know. Let's go Breece Hall.
Yes, shout out Breece Hall. He's not sub 10%, but Saquon Barkley for me, I think. Relative to ownership at 11%, I think he's a really good play this week. Obviously, one of the highest ceilings on the slate. And I think he is in a better spot this week than a guy like Christian or Jonathan Taylor is. And I like going to him as sort of a pivot in that low 7s range.
Yeah, makes sense.
Take a look here at tight end. We've got Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, and Jake Fergie up top in double digits. Nobody really below that. Who do you like at the tight end position this week?
Hold on. I'm getting texts and it's messing up my hearing. Let's go Kyle Pitts. I'll steal that Elijah's suggestion.
Yeah, I like Kyle Pitts there too. For me, let's see. Boy, there's really not a lot of good options this week. I do think I would get sort of away from, a guy like Ferguson this week. I like the actual receiving options on the Cowboys more than I do the tight end position. If I'm playing tight end in that game, I'm probably gonna be riding the rookie hype train there. So I I think instead of picking a guy like I say, I'll be a hater this week and say no Jake Ferguson in lineups. Wide receiver, we've got JSN, Odunze, CD up top. Pretty flat ownership, honestly. Not a ton of guys that are popping above the others. That being said, do you like any of these guys more than the field does?
Maybe Jamar Chase 9%. Justin Jefferson, he's over our 10%, our little artificial barrier, but he's also pretty interesting to me here. Nico, Debo, and Troy Franklin. Let's go with those 5.
Yeah,
I'll leave nothing left for you.
I was gonna go back to the Chargers Broncos game here, but yeah, Troy Franklin obviously last week had a really good game, and I think that's going to continue into this week. He's really cheap and he's in a game environment that I want to stack, so give me all the Troy Franklin. Not much else. I really like these guys up top too, but you just have to know when you're building that these guys are going to be owned and that you're going to want to get different either through your stacking methodology or with some of your last guys in.
Yeah, that's what the sim's for, right? Or just knowing kind of what's going to be over-owned, which combinations.
Yes, sir. And then finally rounding it out with defense, Colts, Packers, and Commanders, really popular this week. Like we said, there's some lower owned defenses here that we're kind of liking. In general, you don't really want to specifically target a defense or set rules around defenses. But there are ways that you can get different by playing some of these lower owned defenses in games that are going to have high passing volume and open themselves up to more defensive scoring through sacks, interceptions, fumbles, etc.
Yep, Texans are my low owned option.
Nice. I do like that. Did run a sim just earlier before the show. We can go ahead and take a look at that. Out of the top 150 lineups I simmed this 17,000 entry contest. At the quarterback position, we've got Herbert, Mac Jones, Drake May, Rodgers, and Caleb Williams, Marcus Mariota, rounding out the top ownership exposures there. Running back, obviously Jordan Mason and Kenneth Walker are both really popular values. And that tends to pop up in the sim where you can play a lot of these value guys and get high upside, high spend options elsewhere and still be different. So, I'm not opposed to playing, not necessarily bad plays, but chalk plays that are low price because there are ways to get different through your stacking and your other players in the lineup. So we got
those beautiful Drake May lambs filtering to the top.
Yes, a lot of them. Tight end Trey McBride, pretty popular. I don't really love it. I don't think it's not a bad play. I just don't think he has a super massive ceiling. But then again, there's really not a lot of guys this week that do. But he is also owned the highest. So if I'm taking a shot on a guy to have a ceiling, I don't really love Trey McBride. We've got Hunter Henry, Jake Tongs, Brock Bowers, Zach Ertz, Juwan, Tyler Warren, Kyle Pitts down there below too. Wide receiver, Keenan Allen's popping off a lot. That's probably as a product of these Justin Herbert Charger stacks. JSN, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams both up there. So Rams stacks also popping a lot in the Sims. Roma Dunze, Lad McConkey, Mike Evans, Metcalf, Pearsall. Are there any specific stacks? I guess Drake May in general. Let's take a look at some of his lineups that bubble up to the top here in the Sim and take a look at what we're getting. So if I filter down to Drake May, refresh it. I got some other filters on. Select my 150. We'll filter down to just Drake May lineups. We can see that in our top 150 Drake May lineups, common stacking partners, Stephon Diggs, Jacoby Myers coming in as a third guy. Hunter Henry, obviously a really popular option. And honestly, I kind of like that in that stack with tight end not being a super strong position this week. Using the tight end from your quarterback stack, I think is a really good idea. A lot of Packers DFT coming up. Pretty interesting to me.
The Drake May, Taylor, Jacobs, Adams, Jefferson, Diggs, Henry, Walker, and Raiders. That's pretty interesting. That might be one that I play or something close to that.
Definitely like that. And I'm pretty curious here. looking at the Bo Nix stuff, Charger stuff in general. I'll do Bo Nix and Herbert. So it's from the top here. So definitely a lot of love for Justin Herbert, more so than Bo Nix in the Sims. Wide receiver wise, Keenan Allen seems to be the primary target in these stacks, probably just due to the fact that he's a really good value on the slate. He's cheap and projected pretty well. That being said, I do like Ladd McConkey as a stack. You get an ownership discount, and he's got a lot of upside on the offense. So targeting stacks there with Herbert and McConkey, I'm liking that.
And Sutton as the preferred bring back. I guess there's some Franklin too. So about the same.
Sutton Franklin I like a lot. Any other teams you want to take a look at here?
Not really. I got to go deal with the barking dog.
Alrighty, I'll let you get after it. Thank you guys for tuning in. That was the week 3 show. If you liked the tools you see here, both simulator and optimizer, projections, game spreads, and all that, be sure to check out AceMind.io. You can use Ace365 for half off our yearly subscription. Good luck this weekend. We will see you next week, and good luck in your contests.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.
See ya.